This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Christopher Mitchell, 212th Trooper, Silas 1610, and Marjan Boo, and brought to you by Christopher Mitchell, who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon or become a channel member, and select the Pickled Producer tier, since among other benefits, this will guarantee that your video is made, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story. Also, while I have you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, since it costs you nothing and tells YouTube you like what I do. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. We begin our electrifying tale in the Ketchum home as our young protagonist Ash Ketchum departs at top speed, running up the main street to Oak's lab as fast as his 10-year-old legs can carry him. Due to a mishap with his alarm clock, he is overslept and is subsequently late to receive his first Pokemon. Like in canon, this means a run-in with his lifelong rival Gary Oak, who mocks the boy relentlessly while his grandfather Professor Oak isn't honestly much better, as he teases Ash for coming to the lab in his pajamas, before letting him get his hopes up at receiving a starter, only to knock them back down as he reveals they're all gone. Heartbroken, Ash asks if there is any Pokemon he can have, and reluctantly, Oak admits that he does have one Pikachu, though it's a little odd. Stars in his eyes now, Ash retorts that he doesn't care, he'll take it, with the sandy-haired man shrugging as he calls forth a Pikachu from inside a Pokeball. At once, Ash recognizes what the professor called this Pokemon odd, as on top of wearing a little deerstalker hat, it is also lambasting the man for capturing him, growling that he could have Oak up on kidnapping charges, since he was just out minding his own business when out of the blue this whack job snuck up behind him and clonked him on the head with a metal ball thrown at like 80 miles an hour. That hurt, you know. Then, next thing he knows, he's being deconstructed into data, which raised all kinds of existential questions about whether this is death, and whether the Pikachu who'd be eventually reconstructed is still him or just a copy, with that being all you could think about for Arceus knows how long, since guess what? There ain't any clocks inside Pokeballs. But what's the point even yelling? It's not like the human can understand him. Speaking up now, Ash replies that he can understand him, with this earning the boy a quizzical look from both Oak and Pikachu. Pikachu because this has never happened before, and Oak because to him it seems that Ash is responding to something no one said, having simply heard a bunch of Pika-Pikas from the yellow electric rodent. Not realizing that he's the only one who can understand Pikachu, Ash repeats a summary of what the electric type just said, with Oak at first looking alarmed at the words coming out of the black-haired boy's mouth, and then fascinated when he realizes Ash must be telling the truth, as there's no way he could think up such things. Wanting to explore this phenomenon further, he asks if Pikachu has anything further to say, and looking up at Ash, the mouse Pokemon nods that he's got something very important to say. He really needs a coffee, like right now, since it's been forever since he had one. Helpfully, Oak obliges, and after seeing the professor has some fancy imported Alolan stuff sent by his cousin, Pikachu warms up to the man significantly, especially once the caffeine withdrawals fade, lessening his grumpiness. All the while, both Ash and Oak watch him with amazement, with Ash curiously asking how he can talk when the other Pokemon he's seen can't, though unfortunately Pikachu isn't much help here, since while it's embarrassing to admit, he actually doesn't remember much prior to the day Oak caught him other than the fact that he was on an important case, but if he really tries, he can kinda see what he thinks is a powerful Pokemon attack. Fascinated, Ash asks if this talk of a case means Pikachu's a detective, and smirking proudly, the rodent replies that he's not just a detective, he's a great detective, earning him an excited smile, as the boy beams this must mean he's helped a lot of people, so now he'll help him recover his lost memories. Nodding, Pikachu replies that he appreciates it. Then as he finishes his coffee with a big gulp, he tells the kid to get the show on the road, since the answers to their questions ain't at the bottom of this mug. Equally excited to start his journey, Ash quickly follows, with this being all Oak can do to make sure he takes his Pokédex and Pokeballs with him. Then as they reach the bottom of the driveway back onto the main Pallet Town street, the new trainer and Pokemon duo find Ash's mum Delia with his clothes and backpack. Figuring he can't be the only one, Ash asks if his mother can understand Pikachu, though once again he is met with nothing. As Delia smiles, this must be the bond between trainer and Pokemon, since she remembers his father saying he could almost understand his Pokemon too, though when Ash insists that he actually can understand Pikachu, his mum gives him a slightly confused look, though smiles all the same and says that in that case, she hopes Pikachu can understand her, when she says she wants him to take care of her son. Saluting perhaps a little too eagerly, the yellow mon vows to do just that, and as he slaps his tail against Ash's leg to hurry him along, the pair set off, ready to begin their new adventure. An adventure that includes a lot more walking than Pikachu might have anticipated, as the mouse must take 3 steps to match one of Ash's comparatively long-limbed strides. Not only that, but for an electric type he's pretty slow, showing none of a Pikachu's usual zippiness. In a tone of concern, Ash offers to let him rest inside his Pokeball if he wants, though shuddering at the thought, Pikachu firmly declines, instead trying to get his mind off his aching paws by asking Ash a little bit more about himself, since so far all they've done is talk about him, and he doesn't want the kid thinking he's completely completely self-absorbed. Chuckling a little, Ash explains that his dream is to become a Pokemon master, though this is about as far as he gets, as Pikachu immediately questions what exactly is that? Like, what does it mean? Truthfully, Ash doesn't know, with this making Pikachu sigh as he begins rattling off possibilities. Is a Pokemon master the strongest trainer in the world? No. How about someone who's caught every kind of Pokemon? Also no. Someone who's been to every region then? No, that still doesn't sound like it. Then what the far-fetched is it? Still chuckling, Ash admits that it's kinda hard to explain, though he guesses a Pokemon master is someone who's friends with all the Pokemon in the world. With this not only calming Pikachu's mounting frustration at this nebulous dream, but actually making him smile, as he claims that his new trainer's in luck then, since while he can't battle as he doesn't know any moves, he does have the ability to talk to Pokemon, meaning he can be a translator between them and Ash, allowing for easier communication and friendship. Eagerly, Ash implores his starter to show him, and puffing at his chest, the Electro-type wanders into a nearby patch of tall grass, with it not taking long to find a Rattata who agrees to chat. Curiously, Ash asks what the purple rodent is saying, with the yellow one frowning as he admits that it's giving them a warning, since they're just on the border of some really nasty Spearows territory, with the rumor being they attack trainers and train Pokemon on sight, so unless they want to be bird chow, they better take another route to Viridian City. Grateful for this tip, especially in light of hearing Pikachu has no moves, Ash thanks Rattata, giving it a small bit of cracker from his pack, before telling Pikachu to lead the way, in order the electric mouse is all too happy to obey, as after getting directions from Rattata he begins leading them off the beaten path and closer to a river that the Spearow usually don't bother with. However, it seems this will not be a road they walk alone, as a little way along they spot a girl with red hair sitting on the other bank with a fishing rod. Excited at the prospect of meeting another trainer, Ash waves and calls out, though this is met with truculence rather than joy, as the girl sighs that this is just great, another new trainer, though at least this one isn't trailing a group of cheering airheads behind him. Knowing exactly who she means, Ash grins that Gary really is the worst, and that he's nothing like him, with this at last earning a small smile, as the girl replies that in that case maybe he's alright. With the ice broken, the pair begin to chat, with Pikachu welcoming the chance to sit. Through this, Ash learns that the fisher girl's name is Misty, and that her dream is to become a water Pokemon master, a claim that makes Pikachu smirk a little, as he snarkily questions if she can define what that means better than Ash could. Choosing not to translate that, the boy instead explains his own dream, with the pair quickly striking up a friendship, so that when Ash gets back on the road an hour or so later, it is with a smile on his face, as he and Misty wish each other luck, and promise to meet again someday and compare the progress of their respective dreams. Following this, the remaining walk to Viridian is pretty uneventful, with the worst thing to happen being the ground being a little muddy for a while, since a storm passed through while they were chatting with Misty. As a result, the duo are able to arrive in the city a bit before sunset, with some most troubling news reaching their ears as Officer Jenny announces over the police station PA system that there are possible Pokemon thieves in the area. Grinning this sounds like a job for a detective, Pikachu implores Ash to investigate with him, so that rather than Officer Jenny accosting Ash like in the canon timeline, he instead approaches her to question what's going on with these thieves. Grateful to have a concerned citizen on her hands, Jenny begins to explain there are a pair of wanted criminals who are known to travel around in a Meowth-shaped hot air balloon, and while she doesn't know their names, they do have a wanted poster, so he can know who to look out for. Noting this will make their investigation easier, Ash tells Pikachu to have a look, though when the mouse Pokemon's black eyes fall upon the images of the criminals, a wave of nausea overcomes him, as flashes of hazy memory pound against the inside of his skull. He's seen that uniform before, that magenta R specifically, and while he doesn't know when or where, he does know that it's related to how he lost his memories. As this revelation hits, so does Pikachu begin to hyperventilate, with Ash worriedly asking his starter if he's okay. For a moment the electric type doesn't respond, then as his mind comes back to the present, he nods and mumbles that for once he doesn't need a coffee, and that memory has his heart racing. Ignoring Jenny's confused expression, Ash asks what he remembered, and after filling him in on the hazy details, Ash smiles that Pikachu found a clue. Those outfits are uniforms, and that R must be their logo. Noting that the boy is right, and that he's starting to think like a detective, the electric type then grins that he's had a bolt of brilliance, and knows exactly who they should talk to about this. Curious as to who that might be, Ash follows his hat-clad buddy out of the police station with a promise to contact Officer Jenny if they find anything, though for a while it seems Pikachu is just wandering aimlessly, as instead of talking to anyone, he just trundles around the city, only stopping occasionally to pull out a magnifying glass and stare up at a trail lamppost, before shaking his head and moving on. After a while, Ash begins to question this methodology, though confidently, the small electric rodent urges his human friend to trust him, as he's sure he'll find what he's looking for soon. As it turns out, he is correct in this, as just when night is beginning to fall, Pikachu lets out an exclamation and begins running as fast as he can towards a local park. Giving chase, Ash is surprised to see their target are a flock of local Pidgey, with Pikachu explaining that if these crooks are known to travel by air, the ones most likely to have seen them will be the local flying types. Looking to the flock of tiny bird Pokemon now, the mouthy mouse starts what is clearly meant to be an interrogation, ready to put the screws to these witnesses if required, though it seems this won't be necessary, as the PG happily reveal what they know, chirpily claiming they did see a Meowth balloon a while ago, since they remember it being scary, as for a second they thought one of their greatest predators had learned how to fly. Rolling his eyes a little at these literal bird brains, Pikachu presses on, asking where they saw the balloon, with the bravest of the bunch explaining that it was coming from the west, and that when it flew close to see if it was a real Meowth, it heard a blue-haired man mention the Pokemon Center, so it hopes Nurse Joy will be okay, since she often leaves treats and water out for all the city's wild Pokemon. Seeing this as a solid lead, Pikachu thanks the PG for doing their civic duty. Then as he turns back to Ash, he grins they know who, and now they know where, so all that's left to decide is what they're going to do in response. Fortunately, Ash has an answer to this question, so that later that evening as the Meowth head balloon carrying Jessie, James and Meowth pass over the Pokemon Center and the trio descend, it is not to find a defenseless hospital they can plunder to their heart's content, but instead a trap, as following the evacuation of Nurse Joy and all the injured Pokemon, Officer Jenny had set up watch inside, along with a squad of uniformed officers and their very bitey Growlithe. Not only that, but Ash and Pikachu are also there, as while Pikachu cannot battle, the crooks don't know that, with them therefore looking like more reinforcements. In a showing of ambition over common sense, Jessie and James do bring out their Ekans and Coughing to fight, but against all those Growlithe it's not really a battle, with the two poison types soon finding themselves unconscious, while their trainers along with Meowth are promptly arrested. However, before the trio can be hauled away, Ash does have a question for them, what the red R on their chest stands for, with Meowth boasting that it's Team Rocket of course, before James chides him for revealing that to the enemy, causing the Scratch Cat to sweat drop as he admits that he maybe should have kept his big mouth shut. As for Jessie, she is not going quietly, growling at Ash, Jenny and anyone who will listen they'll pay for putting someone as beautiful as her behind bars, though this is somewhat muffled when the police van door slams shut on her face, causing her to see stars. Nonetheless, neither Ash nor Pikachu are completely satisfied, since while the case of the Pokemon thieves is now closed, if Pikachu's hazy recollection is to be believed, then this Team Rocket is bigger and more dangerous than just those three dolts, with their true objective being just as much of a mystery as it was before. Endeavouring to continue this investigation in the morning, Ash and Pikachu soon find themselves in bed, feeling thoroughly spent after their big day, though this doesn't stop them from rising bright and early the next morning. In his eager way, Ash immediately wants to start heading to the next town, which in this case is Pewter City, though Pikachu insists they at least wait until he's had his morning coffee, with this waylaying the pair somewhat. As a result of this later start, they are present for the arrival of the Viridian City gym leader, a well-built man in an orange suit, who has apparently come to check in on Nurse Joy in the center and express his relief that everyone was able to stay safe. Appreciatively, Joy informs the man, who she calls Mr. Giovanni, that everything is fine, before pointing out Ash and Pikachu and stating they are the ones to thank. Smiling kindly, Giovanni then approaches the pair to give his congratulations and personal thanks for stopping those awful thieves, since as the city's gym leader, the safety of Viridian citizens is among his highest priorities. Good-naturedly, Ash replies they were just doing what anyone would do, to which Giovanni replies that even so, he would be remiss not to offer the boy a reward, so perhaps if he would like, the two of them can have a gym battle later today. Truthfully, Ash doesn't know what a gym battle is, though either way he has to decline, explaining that his Pikachu actually doesn't know how to battle, with this intriguing the man, as he asks if this also means the youth has no other Pokemon he can use. Shaking his head, Ash apologetically replies that he doesn't, with Giovanni calling this a pity, though he supposes it makes it all the more impressive he was able to stop those criminals without battling. He then bids the boy good day and departs so he might return to his own business, this freeing Ash and Pikachu up to leave and resume their journey. Due to this delay, the trip through Viridian Forest is far less eventful than in canon, as Ash misses out on encountering both Caterpie and Pidgeotto, meaning his only meeting is with Samurai, who makes himself known by shoving a sword in the other boy's face and demanding a battle. When Ash refuses, citing Pikachu's lack of ability, Samurai begins to mock him as a worthless novice unworthy of the other Pallet Town trainers, while at his feet Pikachu grumbles out some smart aleck comment about his ridiculous cosplay, while suggesting he's only out here because they were fumigating his mother's basement today. Nonetheless, since the Pallet pair will not battle, Samurai has no choice but to let them pass, meaning they arrive in Pewter City much earlier due to not being waylaid by a Beedrill horde and needing to recover Metapod. However, regardless of the date and time, there is still one encounter that remains static. Flint, the old rock seller who attempts to convince Ash to buy one of his Pewter City souvenir rocks, and even charges him a $2 fee for sitting on his merchandise, to which Pikachu smirks that if their next case is to figure out who swindled a bunch of tourists out of their money, he thinks he knows the culprit. Briefly, the old guy also begins talking about Brock, the gym leader, though figuring this must be one of his accomplices in the scam business, Pikachu doesn't want to hear it, telling Ash to come on, since after spending 2 days in the woods, he needs a coffee and maybe a bath from Nurse Joy. Choosing to get the coffee first, the duo make their way over to a small cafe in the heart of town, which allows them to observe the people in their day-to-day lives. In a teacherly tone, Pikachu explains that people watching is an essential skill in the detective business, as a great detective needs to be able to look at a scene and see what is being shown, whether the people involved are intending to show it or not. Eyes lighting up, Ash calls this so cool, with the little electric rodent giving him an example as he points at a man skulking through alleys and always dashing to unoccupied parts of the street when he's to come into the light, before returning to the alleys as soon as possible. He then asks the boy to explain what is going on with that man, and figuring this is suspicious behavior, Ash jumps to the conclusion that he must be a criminal trying to avoid notice. Smirking slightly, Pikachu retorts that this is a surface level reading, before telling him to look closer, not just at the man, but what's going on around him. Nodding, Ash does so, and at once he sees what his starter is referring to, trailing just behind the man in a way that is easily obscured by his shadow as a Grimer, who appears to be his partner. With this recontextualizing the whole affair, as now he understands the man isn't trying to avoid people because he's shady, he's trying to avoid them out of consideration for not making them smell Grimer's foul odor, even if it means he has to inconvenience himself with the more circuitous route so he doesn't inconvenience anyone else. Relaying this new discovery and conclusion to Pikachu, Ash is met with a nod of approval while the mouse slurps his coffee, before telling the boy to pick someone else and see what conclusions he can draw. Casting his eyes around, Ash next spots a gaggle of children struggling with a large amount of groceries, probably more than they are actually capable of carrying, especially when some of them are very young, maybe only 3 years old. Recognizing that his trainer has spotted something, Pikachu asks what he sees. Though rising from his chair, Ash states they need help, since they're obviously on their own, otherwise their parents would be helping and watching the really little ones. Noting that this is a sound deduction, Pikachu chugs the rest of his coffee, then joins Ash as he bolts over to grab a couple of the bags and offer assistance. Gratefully, the eldest boy accepts, with Ash's presence serving to take the load off some of the younger ones who excitedly begin playing with Pikachu, who gripes that maybe making small children carry stuff is a good idea, a brilliant one even, since it keeps their sticky little hands full and off his cheeks. Nonetheless, he allows the kids their fun while Ash speaks with the other boy, who he learns is named Forest. Curiously, Ash asks Forest why he and his siblings are handling the grocery shopping all by themselves, to which Forest explains they're trying to take some of the strain off their big bro Brock, since he does everything for them while also managing the gym ever since their dad ran out on them. Remembering that Flint also mentioned Brock, Ash muses that he sounds like quite a guy, with all the kids emphatically declaring that he's the best and they just wish they could do more to help him. At once, Ash and Pikachu's eyes meet, with it being clear they have the same thought, that they've found their next case, with Ash then turning back to Forest and smiling they're going to help find his dad and bring him home. By now they have reached the family's house, which is good since in order to start their investigation, Pikachu points out they'll need a photo of Mr. Deadbeat Dad or something similar to go off of, since without it, their suspect pool is every man in the world who could be a father. Helpfully, Forest explains they do have some photos of their parents from when they were little, though they're all in their old bedroom, which Brock doesn't really like them going in. Understanding this must be important, Ash offers to head down to the gym and ask the young man's permission, though it seems this won't be necessary, as at that moment Brock himself comes strolling through the door and asks who's hungry, since he's come home between matches to make his little siblings lunch. Eagerly, the kids all beam that they are, while Ash and Pikachu come forward to introduce themselves and explain what they're doing. Welcoming any chance to get their dad back, Brock is more than happy to let the pair investigate, though he's doubtful it'll be much use since the old man left years ago. All the same, once the stew is on the boil, he lets Ash and Pikachu into his parents' bedroom, which immediately gives off an air of dust and disuse, but not neglect. Recognizing this seeming incongruence, Ash asks if Brock has closed this place off because he hates his parents for leaving, though Brock replies that it's the opposite. He wants to preserve this last bit of their presence, with this making perfect sense to the boy, who nods that he gets it, since his dad left a long time ago too. Thankfully, before this conversation can get too morose, Pikachu calls Ash over, having found a photo of Brock's parents, with his dad being almost identical to the younger gym leader aside from a slight graying to his hair, a few more lines in his face, and his yellow t-shirt which is rolled up at the sleeves. At once, Ash and Pikachu both agree that this guy looks familiar, though Ash admits that he can't place where they've seen him, while Pikachu suggests they search around town. Heading back out, the pair see something rustling in the bushes just outside the house, and figuring it might contain a clue, Ash yells at whoever it is to stay where they are, only for the figure to sprint away too fast for either Ash or Pikachu to get a good look at them. Sarcastically, the mouse Pokemon tells his trainer that was some great work, and he might as well have just told the guy to run away, to which Ash apologizes for getting a bit overexcited, though either way they can still investigate the place that guy just was. Noting that now the boy's thinking like a detective, Pikachu once more pulls out his magnifying glass and begins making his way over to the bush their suspect was standing behind. From a quick examination, he's able to discover something very interesting, that the ground behind this bush, and only this bush, is a time-worn indent that suggests whoever was here has come here many times before and does so often. From the shape of the dent, it appears to be the footprint of a human or humanoid Pokemon which matches the vague shape they saw, so it would be in the best interest of the investigation if they question this mysterious figure. Knowing they don't have a second to lose, the pair then take off in the direction the figure ran, though Ash is briefly forced to stop when Pikachu yells at him to carry him, since his stubby little legs aren't made for cardio. Unfortunately, this detour does mean that by the time they leave the suburban street Brock's house is on for the adjacent more bustling street, they find that their target has vanished among the throng of people. Thankfully, Ash and Pikachu both know what to do in this moment, as taking a seat on a park bench, they prepare to continue their observation practice from earlier. However, this may be easier said than done, as a rather loud noise nearby is making it hard to focus, with the duo turning to see Flint the rock peddler sitting a little further down the bench, panting and out of breath. Surprised to see the old guy so far from his rocks, Ash casually asks what he's doing here, though this is met with an odd level of evasiveness as he mutters something about exercise before turning the question back on him, asking what the boy's doing. Earnestly, Ash explains that he was just visiting Brock and his family and is now helping them find their dad, with this earning a gruff bark of laughter, as Flint sardonically wishes him good luck, since their father is a good-for-nothing who went off to become a Pokemon trainer and never returned home. Nodding, Ash replies that Brock told him as much, though this twigs something in Pikachu's brain, as he tells Ash to question how the bearded man knows so much about their family business, with this causing Flint to jolt up a little in shock. Spotting this, Pikachu continues to press, pointing out how Flint also seems out of breath, like he was running, and they just saw their suspect running away from Brock's house, not to mention he's wearing the same rolled up yellow shirt as Flint did in that picture. As Ash relays this and even pulls out the photo in question, Flint grows steadily more agitated, and so feeling they have their man, the boy from Pallet and his electric star to make their accusation, that Flint is Brock's father. As soon as these words are out of their mouths, the old rock merchant hangs his head, before pulling off his beanie and fake beard to confirm that yeah, he's those kids' loser dad. He went out with dreams of being great for them, but instead, he made a fool of himself, and so couldn't bring himself to show his face around his children again. Ever since, he's watched them from afar, wishing he could be a part of their lives, though never able to bring himself to rejoin the family. Bluntly, Ash calls that pretty dumb, causing Flint to bark at him for minimizing his tragic backstory. Though holding firm, Ash retorts that there's no reason to stay away. Brock and his siblings don't need Flint to be successful, they just need him to be their dad, a claim which makes the man sigh that he's right, and he's sorry for being such a fool. From behind them, a new voice speaks up, stating that he can start making it up by coming home, and looking around, Ash, Pikachu and Flint see Brock, having evidently followed Ash after he yelled out back at the house. Nodding regretfully, Flint replies that it's the least he can do. Then, as he rises to embrace his oldest son, he thanks him for a second chance, as well as Ash and Pikachu for showing him how ridiculous he's been. As the pewter pair then begin heading home, Pikachu turns his attention to Ash and smiles that he did good. While he may not be a great detective like him just yet, he definitely has good insight into matters of the heart, and when coupled with his desire to help people in Pokemon, there's no one he'd rather have as his partner. Smiling happily, Ash replies the feeling's mutual. Then as they lean in, they formally seal their partnership with a high five. And that's where we'll leave things. What cases await Ash and Pikachu moving forward? How will Brock respond to having his dad back at long last? And will Pikachu ever be able to recover his lost memories? Find out as the journey continues.